What will it look like to celebrate Holy Week and Easter this year? I don't know about you, but I have not been excited as I've been anticipating this week. When it became clear a couple of weeks ago that we would not be together for Holy Week and Easter, I bemoaned with some of my clergy friends what this even means for the church. This is when we are the most the church, right? Easter is when we shine. Easter is what we are about. So, what does it mean to do Easter when we cannot come together as a physical body? I want to say that I believe this will be a good time, a holy time, a challenging time, and also a nourishing time for us all. It will look very different than it ever has, but we can still grow together. So, there are three things that I am trying to do as I approach Holy Week and Easter this year. And there are three things that I'd like to invite you to do with me. So here are the three things. First thing, keep your traditions. Maybe you have certain traditions, ways that you always do Holy Week or Easter. Maybe you always make one particular dish on Easter Day. Still make it. Even if you don't have all of the extended family around the table, maybe it's just you and your spouse, make it anyway. Maybe make a smaller version of it. But keep the tradition that marks this as a holy, sacred day. Maybe you always go to a Maundy Thursday and Good Friday service. So join us this year on Zoom. We'll do it online. Or maybe take the home version that I'm providing in an email and gather your family around a table and I'll do it together. Or maybe you take a palm leaf, or not a palm leaf, since we don't live in a tropical climate, but your makeshift palm leaf, any kind of greenery you clip from your yard, and you make a cross, like it's Palm Sunday. Whatever those traditions or rituals are that take you back to reminding you that this is Holy Week, this is Easter, do those things. They will ground you. It's okay if they need to adapt a little bit, if you need to change them. But still, hold on to those rituals. Hold on to those traditions. They matter. Second thing, create some time this week to worship. So if you're like me, and your time looks totally different now than it did a month ago, I've got a child on each arm pretty much every minute of the day, and it's hard to find any time to get work done. Or maybe you're in a situation where you're working from home now and you feel like you have to work around the clock because there's no clear differentiation between the office and your workplace. Or maybe you're not working anymore, but all of the events, all of the meetings, all of the gatherings that used to structure your days now aren't there. So your time looks very different. All of our time looks very different right now. And so it would be easy to let this week slip away because nothing is normal about this week. So how do we do Holy Week if we don't have our days in a particular rhythm? That's why I challenge you to go ahead and maybe pull out your calendar today. Mark when you're going to observe this holy time. So maybe you join us on our Zoom worship. Maybe you plan to watch a particular video at a particular time. Maybe you mark on your calendar at 3 p.m. on Good Friday, I am going to ring a bell and I'm going to take some time in silence. Whatever it looks like for you, go ahead and mark out that time. Take that time. It's important. And the third and the final thing, remember that this is not your story, that this is not my story, that this is not our story even. No, it's God's story. So as much as this does not seem like Holy Week or Easter or what we would have wanted or a particularly holy way to do worship if we're having to peer at a screen and try to see one another, or adapt our living room as we're in our pajamas for some sort of makeshift worship space, it's okay, right? Because we know that God is about so much more than just a church building. We love our church buildings. We love our rituals, our traditions, our services, but God is so much bigger than that. And God, of course, writes a story that we never could have imagined. I know if I were writing the story, I would not have had a story with an empty tomb at the end where Jesus rises from the dead. I would have not had a Savior die first. Nothing about this story is a story that a human would have written, right? God is a God of surprises, a God who comes to earth in human form, who is vulnerable, who does everything that we would not expect. And yet God's story is a good story. So we realize this more this year maybe than we have ever before. This is not the story we would have written about Easter 2020. And yet this is the story that we have. This is God's story. And it is a good story. It is a good story. It is a good story. Amen.